Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Number one number, as you can see, this is for the first, for 12/1/2025. Number one number. Okay, here we are with your 812. There you have it, 812 straight. This is for the second. You have the dates 11/27 to 12/4. This is for all states. For all the people who keep inboxing me, emailing me, do you do Louisiana? Do you do New York? Do you do California? I'm not going to answer you. Not when I tell you when I go live that I do all states and abroad. It's simple as that. What you see here in writing, pay close attention. This is what's happening. People are reading into the prediction. I tell you not to leave anything out and do not add anything. So again, to win, you focus on my top 5 3 digits, which I promise the first 2 big money patterns, fire and triple dollar signs. They will manifest from 11/27 to 12/4. I also guarantee the number 3 and the number 4 position numbers in your state. In your state. In capital letters, in fact. But I also include Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and North Carolina, where I have about a 97% success rate overall. 98% success rate straight for the 3 digit. About a 81% straight success rate for the 4 digit. Ladies and gentlemen, 560, ladies and gentlemen, only 20 hours before it debuted. As you can see, I promised it would make it straight between 12/1 and 12/8. Remember, this is for informational purposes, and the information that I am purposely giving you is for investment purposes only. Investment purposes only. I do not gamble. I am not an advocate of gambling, nor do I promote it. Ladies and gentlemen, you got 7/8/5/5. Number one motherfucking big money pattern, 12/2. Same motherfucking day. Y'all better leave me alone. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 7/1/4/9. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see it? Number one motherfucking big money pattern met the deadline date. So again, you don't have to keep playing a number. Invest in it one time and get paid in it several times before the deadline date. As you can see, I promised the triple dollar signs would manifest between 11:27 and 12:04. Ladies and gentlemen, 664, ladies and gentlemen, you have it, the only motherfucking big money pattern on fire, North Carolina for Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, 560, ladies and gentlemen, 560, only 2 hours is all you had to wait. And that's straight, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you got 4926. Okay, look at it right there. Boom, boom, boom. Only motherfucking big money pattern on fire. So I see I'm going to be closing this out real soon because no love is being shown. I'm under the weather and I'm still out here trying to give you what's going to happen. 5940, ladies and gentlemen, you got 4950. You can see it right there. Triple dollar signed. I said it would manifest between 11:30 and 12:07. This was Georgia for Ohio, 2 states before, 2 states after. Ladies and gentlemen, you got 546. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is, 546 straight. Between 11:30 and 12:07. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see number 2, which you know the first 2 are promised big money patterns. 12/2. Same motherfucking day, but y'all not listening. Ladies and gentlemen, 302. Ladies and gentlemen, I triple dollar signed 302. Said it would debut same motherfucking day. Y'all better leave me alone. Ladies and gentlemen, 980. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised I would manifest 980 straight between the dates 11/28 and 12/5. Ladies and gentlemen, 247. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I triple dollar sign 427, Tennessee from Florida, between the dates 11/27 and 12/4. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is again. As you can see, guaranteed to manifest straight 11:30 to 12/7. Ladies and gentlemen, 169. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not play. You see it right there. Number 1 motherfucking big money pattern. Right there. It says from 11:30 to 12/7. If you would have invested in it, you would have won. Hands down, no questions asked. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your 570. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is on time. 11:28 to 12/5. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your 436. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised the top 2 big money patterns would manifest by the deadline date. Florida or motherfucking Florida. So, there you have it again, ladies and gentlemen. This is 436, guaranteed to manifest straight. Top 3, you can see specifically. To win, you have to focus on my top 5 3 digits, which I promise the first 2, fire, the triple dollar signs, they will manifest from 11/29 to 12/6. I also guarantee 1, 2, 3, the number 3 number would manifest straight. There you go. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have your 238. Ladies and gentlemen, only motherfucking big money pattern on fire. I said you would see it between 11/27 and 12/4. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your 6104. Ladies and gentlemen, I triple dollar signed it. Said you would see it between 12/1 and 12/8. Ladies and gentlemen, 201. Ladies and gentlemen, I triple dollar signed it. Said it would go to Texas 12/1 to 12/8. There it is again. Manifested straight. Truth on time, 11:30 to 12:07. Tennessee for Texas. 2 states before, 2 states after. 8746. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Triple dollar sign. I promised the very last number you see would manifest first. But y'all not listening. And that was the same motherfucking day. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is again. 6487. Michigan for Texas. 11:30 to 12:07. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I guaranteed 11:28 to 12:08. You would see that combination. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 462. Ladies and gentlemen, number one motherfucking big money pattern. Oh, let's go back to the date. Date you would see it is between 11:30 and 12:07. That was Tennessee for Tennessee. So again, you don't have to run all of the big money patterns. You just got to run what's for your state. Okay, 675. Ladies and gentlemen, number one big money pattern met my deadline. I said you would see it between 11:26 and 12:03. It dropped on 12:03. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 9748. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is right there. Boom, boom, boom. If you know how to read to win, focus on my top 5 4 digits, which I promise the first two. 1, 2, boom, boom, boom. Y'all not listening to me though. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 8217. There it is, triple dollar sign. I promised you would see it manifest. 11:29 to 12:06. Tennessee for Georgia, 2 states before, 2 states after. Ladies and gentlemen, 493. Ladies and gentlemen, I triple dollar signed it. Said it would go to Georgia, 11:30 to 12:07. Dropped there yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 442. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised the very last motherfucking big money pattern you see would manifest first. Said you would see it the same motherfucking day that I did the prediction. Nobody's listening to you though. Ladies and gentlemen, I said you would see it, Texas to Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, 532. Ladies and gentlemen, promised the number 2 big money pattern would manifest 11:29 to 12:06. This was Georgia for Michigan. 2 states before, 2 states after. Ladies and gentlemen, 734. Ladies and gentlemen, 734 straight. Manifesting between the dates 11:28 and 12:05. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is again, 734 straight. 11:28 to 12:05. 1356. I promised the very last number you see would manifest first between the dates 11:30 and 12:07. This was Michigan for Florida, 2 states before, 2 states after. Ladies and gentlemen, I did a little bit more, and I guaranteed the number 4 position number to manifest Georgia for Florida, 2 states before, 2 states after. I said you would see it between 11:30 and 12:07. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your 6285. Ladies and gentlemen, my only big money pattern on fire. You can see it for yourself. And I met my motherfucking deadline of 12/3. Yesterday was 12/3. Today is 12/4. You got 656, ladies and gentlemen. Triple dollar sign 656 to manifest straight. It was the very last motherfucking big money pattern you see. I promised it would manifest first. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 7. Nope, that's a 2. 268, ladies and gentlemen. Deadline met. Promise my number 1 big money pattern would manifest motherfucking straight on this on the deadline date 12/3 right there, clear as day, but nobody's paying attention. I have designed this to where you can take a paycheck, and once you take that paycheck and invest it, you'll never have to work again. But people want to nickel and dime. People want to play the lottery instead of invest in the lottery. I'm giving you the dates that I promise you will see these motherfucking combinations, but nobody's listening. People that are listening are banning me, suspending me because of this information. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is again, 268. Promise the triple dollar signs would manifest the same motherfucking day. Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. You got your 3828. Boom, boom, boom. Number 1 big money pattern. I told you you would see it between 11:30 and 12:07. But ain't nobody listening to Mr. Bascomb. Ladies and gentlemen, 6527. Ladies and gentlemen, I guaranteed 1, 2, 3. The 3rd big money pattern, 12/2 to 12/9. 2 days. 2 days. Actually 1, but we'll say 2 days. And there you have it again. To manifest, guaranteed, between 11:30 and 12:07. Ladies and gentlemen, 355. Ladies and gentlemen, the only motherfucking big money pattern on fire. I said it would manifest straight. There's your proof. And I said that was going to happen on 12/1 to 12/8. Ladies and gentlemen, 159. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise my top 2 big money patterns would manifest by 12/3. You see that right there? That's the deadline date, but ain't nobody listening. So here, pay close attention. So if you think I'm a motherfucking fraud, right? You think I'm a motherfucking fraud. How am I seeing this on 11/26 to happen on motherfucking 12/3? Y'all better leave me the fuck alone. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your 0672. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise by putting triple dollar signs on the first best alternate big money pattern, I said it would manifest at 4:37 a.m. and nobody's paying attention to this type of work. Y'all see it for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, 2681, ladies and gentlemen, number 1 motherfucking big money pattern. I said it would happen by the motherfucking deadline date. You not listening, no. I did this on 11/25. Walked right out of my skin so you could fucking win. But y'all not listening to me. Ladies and gentlemen, 002. Ladies and gentlemen, I triple dollar sign and said it would manifest between 12/2 and 12/9. 1 motherfucking day. Ladies and gentlemen, you got 016. Ladies and gentlemen, number 1 motherfucking big money pattern, 12/1 to 12/8. North Carolina or North Carolina. So if you were just running North Carolinas, you would have won. You would have won. Ladies and gentlemen, 3644. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise 3644 would manifest motherfucking straight. 11/27, I saw it. I put it in writing so you could get it at 2:53 p.m. Y'all not listening to me though. Ladies and gentlemen, 3519. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Triple dollar sign. Said you would see it between 11:30 and 12/7. Georgia from Ohio. Boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, 859. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise my motherfucking number 1 big money pattern would manifest fucking straight. Same motherfucking day. 12/3. But y'all not listening to me though. Ladies and gentlemen, you got your 683. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise my number 1 big money motherfucking pattern would manifest motherfucking straight. 11:30 to 12/7. Y'all not paying attention to me though. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to see everybody at the winner's table no matter what. For those of you who are interested in winning on a regular basis, ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do is know the prerequisite first. I have a prerequisite. I read it to you every day, starting out with the very first line of my prediction. You have to express that to me before I will even accept any money from you. If you send me money and don't know the prerequisite, I'm going to immediately refund your money. I don't have time for people's bullshit. I don't. I know this looks amazing. I know it is amazing. I know it can be amazing to you, but you have to be able to follow simple winning instructions. If you can't do that, I can't do anything for you. A 5-year-old can pick out fire. How many times did you see me show you the fire, the only motherfucking big money pattern on fire? How many times did I show you the number 1, number 2 big money pattern would manifest straight? How many times did I have to guarantee that you could see the number 3 and the number 4 positioned numbers only straight? So, for those of you who are still doing flips and mirrors, the positive side is your true flip and mirror. So the only flip and mirror that the negative side got right was the 2-7. All other motherfucking numbers are wrong. And that's why you can't win with the flips and mirror. You can't. When you do win, it's luck. And people still think, oh, I just put the flip and mirror on it and I'm gonna win. How are you gonna flip and mirror every fucking number and think you're gonna win every motherfucking day? So again, for all these motherfucking gurus, all these motherfucking people that do rundowns and flips and mirrors, let me see you promise a motherfucking number. Let me see you do that. Let me see you do 80% of all of your numbers to manifest within 2 days. Let me see you do that. I'll quit what I'm doing and I'll join your group happily. I'll sign up for a whole motherfucking year. Sure will. So again, if you know what to do, by all means, go to dynamicpredictions.onrender.com. Before you do that, I need you to email me at dynamicallydriven@gmail.com. Once you email me, just tell me, hey, Mr. Bascomb, I'm ready to win. I know I can win. I know how to follow winning instructions. And I know that your winning instructions are to win. Focus on your top 5 4 digits, which you promised the first 2 big money patterns, fire and triple dollar signs, will manifest from your specific dates you give. You also guarantee the number 3 and the number 4 in my state and also in Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and North Carolina within the next 24 to 48 hours. In most cases, you can make this happen. So that right there lets me know that you believe in me. That right there lets me know that you believed in yourself first in order to come to me. Because most people who don't believe in themselves, they can't even get this far. I'm going to see everybody at the winner's table, no matter what. All the numbers that I gave you from the first till now, those are the numbers you're going to see no matter what. If you want a update prediction, you need to go to the https:// dynamicpredictions.onrender.com. Subscribe to a package. New clients, I am gifting 7 free days valued at $100. Even if you pick just one day, you're going to get that 7 because I am the truth in numbers. I believe in energy, frequency, and vibration. I am able to manipulate this construct and manifest my own lottery numbers. So if you don't believe that, then you're in the wrong spot because I prove it every single day. I've been banned, I've been suspended over the last 8 years on multiple platforms for speaking the motherfucking truth. Let that sink in. I'm going to see everybody at the winner's table. Abundant prosperity in health and in wealth to all who follow me and believe in the hard work that you see me accomplishing every single day.